All right, ready to dive into something different. Today, we're looking at human design.
Ooh, interesting.
You familiar with it?
Oh, I am, yeah.
So it combines, well, ancient wisdom with modern science
Yeah.
and gives you this really unique blueprint of, well, you?
It's wild how specific it gets, right? Like
Uh,
having a personalized instruction manual.
Totally. But instead of like, I don't know, assembling furniture,
Right.
you're figuring out how to navigate life
Yeah.
in a way that just feels totally like right,
Totally aligned. Yeah.
aligned, that's the word.
That's it.
And our guide for this deep dive, we're using Karen Curry's book,
Oh,
Understanding Human Design.
it's a great one.
It is. It's really good. It takes this complex system and like breaks it down so we can actually use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I gotta say, when I first cracked it open, I was like, whoa, this is a lot.
It can be a lot to take in for sure.
But stick with us. It's worth it, I promise.
Oh, absolutely. One of the coolest things about human design, I think, is how it's so different from those like typical personality tests you see.
Right, right.
It's not about like fitting yourself into some predetermined box.
Yeah.
It's more about understanding your own unique energetic blueprint
Okay.
and then using that to your advantage out in the world.
So in chapter 1, we get into, well, the origin story.
Okay.
And it is kind of wild.
Yeah.
It involves this guy named Ra Uruhu,
Mm-hmm.
who basically had this like intense mystical download of information.
Really?
And that became the foundation of the whole system.
Wow.
Yeah. And to create your own human design chart, which they call a body graph,
Right?
you need your exact birth date and time.
So specific.
Super specific.
Makes sense though, right? If it's really tailored to you.
Yeah, totally.
So that body graph, it visually represents your energy flow,
Mhm.
your strengths, even potential like challenges, roadblocks, whatever.
I mean, it can be kind of overwhelming at first glance, I'll be honest.
I can imagine.
All these lines and shapes and...
But think of it like a roadmap for your life.
Okay, yeah.
And just like a good roadmap, it helps you figure out the best route to take. Avoid the dead ends.
Avoid getting lost.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
So chapter 2 gets into the 5 human design types.
This is what everyone wants to know.
Oh, yeah, it's what usually draws people in.
Like, what type am I?
Well, it's my label.
Right.
Right.
But it's important to remember that these types,
Mm-hmm.
they're not about putting people into, like, these rigid categories.
No.
It's more about understanding your natural energy patterns,
Right.
and how you're designed to interact with the world.
Yeah, how you move through it.
So, for example, manifestors,
Okay.
they're known for their initiating energy.
Mm.
They're like the ones who make things happen.
The go-getters.
Yeah, the ones who start projects, lead the charge,
The ones with that natural drive. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but here's where it gets interesting. They need to learn how to inform others before they take action.
Ah, interesting.
Otherwise, they can run into a lot of resistance.
So it's not about suppressing that go-getter energy.
No.
It's more about like, I don't know, refining it a little.
Yeah, channeling it.
Yeah, so it works for them, but also, the people around them.
Exactly. Now, generators, total different breed.
Oh, tell me about it.
They're like the life force energy of the planet,
Okay.
with a ton of power to work and create,
Mm-hmm.
but their magic happens when they respond to life,
Interesting.
rather than constantly initiating.
So instead of always pushing,
Yeah, pushing and forcing things.
they're more about waiting for that spark.
Yeah, something that lights them up.
It's something they can really sink their teeth into.
And when they operate from that place of response, it's like they tap into this endless well of energy.
I can already see how this would be huge for someone who feels, constantly burnt out.
Totally, yeah.
Like they've been trying to force it in the wrong direction.
And then we've got manifesting generators,
Oh, yeah, those are interesting.
which it's a blend of both manifestor and generator energy.
They can kind of do it all.
Yeah, they're like the multitaskers
And multi-hyphen.
of the human design world. So they can initiate like a manifestor,
Mm-hmm.
but they also have that generator need to respond.
Oh, so it's like, imagine this. You're super busy juggling a million things.
Right.
And suddenly you have this urge to, I don't know, reorganize your entire office.
Okay, yeah.
That's that manifestor energy kicking in.
Okay.
But instead of immediately jumping up and like knocking everything over,
Uh-huh.
you pause.
Okay.
Maybe you wait for a free afternoon.
Yeah.
Or maybe you see a post online about, I don't know, minimalist workspaces.
Right.
And that really inspires you.
That's the generator response.
Exactly. And then, bam, you go full speed ahead on the project.
I love that. So they're adaptable, quick to learn, quick to do.
Yeah. but they still benefit from that pause
That moment of checking in.
with their gut.
Okay. And then we get to projectors,
Uh-huh.
who are often described as having this incredible ability to, like, see the big picture,
Mm.
understand the underlying patterns,
Potential in others?
potential of
Yeah,
others.
very good at that.
And, you know what's funny? Before I even knew about human design, I always felt this weird resistance to, like, self-promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Putting myself out there felt, I don't know, icky.
Yeah.
And hearing you describe the projector energy, it's like, oh, that makes sense.
Like it clicks, finally.
I'm not designed to be the one, like, shouting from the rooftops, you know.
No, no.
It's more about letting my work speak for itself.
And waiting for the right people to find you.
Exactly. That's a much better strategy for me.
And what's so interesting is you're actually echoing one of the core principles of human design,
Okay.
working with your energy, not against it.
Oh my God.
When projectors try to force things, it creates a lot of, well, frustration.
They can end up feeling bitter.
Resentful, yeah.
So it's like, if you build it, they will come. But in a human design kind of way.
Precisely.
Okay, I'm with you.
Last but not least, we have the rarest type, the reflectors.
Ah.
They're like the barometers of the human design world,
Okay.
incredibly attuned to the energy around them,
Mm-hmm.
the people, their environment.
So they kind of reflect back what's going on.
Yeah, their gift is in reflecting back to us, what's healthy, what needs to be adjusted.
So what I find fascinating about reflectors is that their decision-making process is so different.
It is, yeah.
They're encouraged to wait, get this, a full lunar cycle,
Wow.
about 28 days.
Before making any big decisions.
Yeah, can you imagine?
It's about giving themselves time to, like, really absorb the energy of the
To
situation
let it all sink in.
and see how it shifts and changes, yeah.
So, like, imagine you're considering a job offer.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying yes or no right away,
Right.
you take a month to really sit with it.
Mm-hmm.
Notice how you feel.
Pay attention to your dreams.
Maybe your energy changes around the people you'd be working with
And over that month, a clarity emerges.
that you wouldn't have had otherwise.
Exactly.
Now, in addition to knowing your type,
Mm-hmm.
human design also talks about something called inner authority,
Oh, yeah.
which is basically how each type makes decisions.
Right, that are aligned, that are in flow.
In flow, yeah, that are in alignment with their energy.
Like we each have our own internal compass.
This is where things got mind-blowing for me personally.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so used to making decisions based on logic.
Right, that's how we're taught.
But human design is like, hey, there's a deeper wisdom within you that already knows what's best,
And that wisdom speaks to us in different ways.
depending on your type.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
each of us has our own internal compass.
Okay?
And human design, it helps us learn how to read it.
So for
Okay.
manifestors, it might be about trusting those sudden urges to take action.
Right. Even if it doesn't logically make sense in the moment.
Even if your brain is like, wait, what?
Exactly. But for generators, it's all about that gut feeling,
Mm-hmm.
what human design calls the sacral response.
Okay.
It's that deep, visceral yes or no they get in response to things.
Mm-hmm.
Learning to trust that can be huge.
Because how many times have we talked ourselves out of something that felt right in our gut,
All the time, right?
only to regret it later?
Yeah, and projectors, their inner authority can be a little more complex.
Okay.
Some of them, they rely on their emotional clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Others on their intuition.
Okay.
And some on what's called splenic knowing.
Splenic knowing.
Yeah, it's like an instant recognition of what's correct for them.
Interesting.
And then, of course, we have the reflectors with the most patient inner authority of all.
A lunar cycle, right?
Exactly.
Imagine waiting an entire month to make a decision.
It's wild, but when you think about how attuned they are to their environment,
Right.
it makes sense. Yeah. They need that time to really let everything settle.
And see the bigger picture.
Precisely.
Okay.
So Chapter 3, it gets into some of the more technical aspects of human design.
Okay.
Like profiles, centers, gates.
It gets a little more in depth.
It does, yeah. And those can add a lot of nuance. But for our deep dive today, I think it's more helpful if we focus on the practical applications,
All right, sounds good.
which is what Karen Curry really gets into in Chapter 4.
And this is where it gets really interesting,
I agree.
because she introduces this concept called the not self theme.
Yeah.
And it's basically all the stuff that we've absorbed from society, our families, our experiences,
That isn't really us.
but it isn't actually us.
It's like we're walking around wearing these masks,
Okay.
trying to be who we think we should be
Right.
instead of who we actually are.
And that creates a lot of, friction,
Resistance, yeah.
resistance in our lives.
Yeah, for sure.
So give me an example.
Yeah.
How does this not self show up for like a manifester?
Well, for them, it often manifests as anger.
Anger, okay.
When they feel like their power to initiate is being blocked or controlled, that's when that anger flares up.
Mm-hmm.
They might get frustrated when others don't immediately follow their lead or when they feel micromanaged.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're designed to initiate,
Right.
to pave their own way, so when that energy gets stifled.
It's bound to cause some friction.
Exactly. Now, for generators, their not self-theme, it's frustration.
Okay.
And this comes up when they're forcing things, trying to make things happen that aren't really meant for them.
They're pushing a boulder uphill.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they're constantly pushing a boulder uphill, and it just drains them.
I'm thinking about a friend of mine. She's a generator,
Mm-hmm.
and she's always been super ambitious, go-getter.
Okay.
But she's also been through a lot of career changes.
Mm.
And I've noticed this pattern of her burning out, feeling disillusioned, and then starting over in a totally different field.
Wow.
And now that I know about human design, it's like, aha.
It clicks.
She's been trying to force things that weren't aligned with her sacral response.
Yeah, that's so common, especially in our society where we're told we have to hustle all the time.
Right.
But for generators, it's really about finding that thing that lights them up, that they can pour their energy into without feeling depleted.
So projectors, what about them?
Projectors, it's bitterness.
Bitterness.
Yeah, and this comes up when they feel overlooked
Mhm.
or unrecognized or like their gifts aren't being valued,
Mm.
and they might start to doubt themselves, question their worth,
Yeah.
and even resent those who seem to be getting the recognition they crave.
Oof, this is hitting close to home.
I bet.
I can definitely relate to that feeling of bitterness.
Especially, I imagine, in past work situations.
Yeah, where I felt like I was constantly having to prove myself.
It's a common experience for projectors, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But when they understand their design, they can start to shift their energy.
Okay.
It's about focusing on mastering their craft, sharing their knowledge in the right places, and attracting the people who will truly appreciate their insights.
What about reflectors?
Reflectors, it's disappointment.
Disappointment.
Yeah, they can feel let down when they haven't had enough time to process their environment, or when they feel like they're being pressured to make decisions before they're ready.
So it's crucial for them to honor that lunar cycle decision-making process.
Right, and to surround themselves with people who respect their need for space and reflection.
Okay. And this is why understanding your human design can be so
Liberating.
liberating. Like, oh, that's not me. That's just the conditioning talking.
Exactly.
And then you can choose to let it go.
Chapter 5 is where it gets really practical.
Ooh, okay.
Karen Curry gives specific examples of how each type can use human design in their everyday lives.
This is what I was waiting for.
Me too, honestly.
So let's break it down. What are some key takeaways for manifestors?
Well, one of the biggest ones is the power of informing,
Informing. Okay.
letting people know what they're up to before they take action.
So it's not about asking permission
No,
or seeking approval.
it's just communicating their intentions.
Got it.
And in a work setting, this can be huge.
Yeah.
Imagine a manifestor who's leading a team.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just barking orders, expecting everyone to follow along,
Right.
they take a moment to explain their vision, their goals, and why they're taking certain actions.
Okay.
Creates buy-in, fosters collaboration, ultimately leads to better results.
That's a great example.
What about generators? What advice does she offer them?
Well, I'm curious to hear more about that, too.
For generators, it's all about honoring their sacral response,
Mm-hmm.
designing their lives in a way that allows them to respond to what lights them up.
Rather than constantly initiating things that drain them.
Exactly.
So maybe that looks like being more selective about the projects they take on at work, saying no to commitments that don't energize them,
Right.
maybe choosing hobbies that they actually feel passionate about.
And it can be as simple as paying attention to their energy levels throughout the day.
Sure.
Like, when do they feel most alive?
Right.
When do they feel depleted?
Interesting.
Tuning into those subtle cues,
Yeah.
it can help them make choices that support their natural rhythm.
Now, projectors, they often struggle in a world that values,
Yeah.
extroversion and self-promotion.
That's true.
So what does human design offer them?
For projectors, it's all about waiting for the invitation.
The invitation.
Instead of trying to force their way into the spotlight,
Right.
they're designed to attract the right opportunities by sharing their expertise,
Okay. Yeah.
allowing themselves to be seen for their unique gifts.
So maybe that looks like finding a niche where their skills are highly valued, building a platform to share their knowledge.
Or even just being patient,
Yeah.
allowing the right people to come into their lives.
Okay, and it's important for them to remember that their energy isn't designed for constant output.
Yeah, it's not, no.
They need time to
We
recharge,
need to reflect.
process their insights.
Trying to keep up with that always-on culture can lead to burnout.
Totally.
But about reflectors, how can they navigate a world that can feel so chaotic and overwhelming?
Yeah, it's got to be tough for them.
For reflectors, it's about creating a stable and supportive environment.
Okay.
They need time and space to process their experiences and to make decisions that are aligned with their energy.
So maybe that looks like setting clear boundaries, surrounding themselves with people who understand their need for solitude.
Choosing work or living spaces that feel calming,
Yeah.
harmonious.
And remembering that lunar cycle for decision-making, that's huge for them.
It is, yeah.
It's like, don't rush into anything, wait and see how things unfold.
Exactly. Now, Karen Curry shares this story in Chapter 5 that really shows the power of human design in action.
Okay, I'm all ears.
It's about this projector who was struggling in a traditional corporate job. He was constantly pushing himself forward, trying to get his ideas heard.
Yeah.
But he kept hitting roadblocks.
I think a lot of projectors can relate to that.
Oh, absolutely.
That feeling of being a square peg trying to fit into a round hole.
Exactly.
So what changed for him? How did human design help him?
When he discovered he was a projector, he finally understood why he felt so drained all the time.
Okay.
He had been forcing action, initiating things that weren't truly aligned with his design.
Interesting.
It's like he was trying to run on diesel fuel when his engine was designed for gasoline.
I love that analogy.
And once he started honoring his strategy, his whole life shifted.
Really?
He found a job that he was passionate about, his energy levels soared, and he felt a sense of purpose he'd never experienced before.
Wow.
And there's another story I found really powerful about Sophie, a manifesting generator. She always felt pressure to specialize, to focus on just one thing.
Right, to pick a lane and stick with it.
Yeah, but she had so many interests and talents.
It must have felt so limiting.
It did, and learning about human design was huge for her.
How so?
It gave her permission to embrace her multifaceted nature.
To be her full self.
Exactly, and to create a career that incorporated all of her passions.
So instead of feeling like she had to choose, she found a way to bring them all together.
She started a travel blog, offering freelance writing and marketing services to businesses in the tourism industry.
That's awesome.
And because she was honoring her natural energy, she was able to juggle multiple projects, work efficiently, and feel energized by her work.
Like she finally unlocked her superpower.
Exactly. And these stories just show the transformative potential of human design.
Yeah, it's not just about understanding your personality, it's about unlocking your full potential.
And creating a life that feels authentic and meaningful.
So we've covered a lot here.
We have.
5 types: inner authority, the not self theme, practical applications, even relationships.
A lot to digest.
What are some key takeaways that you think are important for listeners to remember?
First and foremost, understanding your own design.
Okay.
Recognizing your strengths, your weaknesses, how you're wired to operate in the world.
Like having a roadmap for navigating life.
Exactly. And a big part of that is understanding your type, strategy, and authority.
Right.
Making decisions that honor your energy, trusting that inner wisdom.
It's like stop overthinking everything and start listening to your gut.
Or your intuition, or whatever your specific authority is.
And finally, the power of living authentically.
Yes.
When you shed those conditioned patterns and embrace your true self, that's when you unlock your full potential.
And create a life that feels truly meaningful.
It's like stepping into your power.
Becoming the best version of yourself.
I love that. So for everyone listening, what stands out to you from all of this?
What resonates most with your own experience?
You know, for me, honestly, the whole not self theme, that really resonated.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff.
I've spent so much of my life trying to fit into boxes that just weren't for me, you know?
I think so many people can relate to that, trying to be someone they're not.
And it's exhausting. But human design is like, it gives you permission to be yourself, quirks and...
It's like you finally get the keys to your own unique vehicle.
Okay.
And you realize, wait, I don't have to try to be a sports car when I'm clearly a four-wheel drive.
Love that analogy.
Built for adventure.
So to everyone listening, think about those areas in your life where you feel the most, I don't know, resistance, the most frustration. Are you trying to force something that's not meant for you?
Are you ignoring those gut feelings?
Are you trying to be someone you're not?
It's a good question to ask.
Human design gives you the tools to start recognizing those patterns and making choices that are aligned with your true self.
And that's where the magic happens.
So before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I want to touch on a few more practical tips that Karen offers in the book.
Okay, yeah.
One that really resonated with me was the idea of, like, paying attention to your body's signals.
Oh, yeah, listening to your inner GPS.
Yes. It's like we all have this incredible internal guidance system.
But we don't always listen to it.
No, we're so busy listening to all the external noise.
It's true.
But those signals are there. Maybe it's a knot in your stomach when you're about to make a decision that just doesn't feel right, or a surge of energy when you're doing something that truly lights you up.
Or even something as simple as like being drawn to a certain color or a particular song.
Yeah.
Those seemingly random preferences, they can actually be clues from your body, guiding you towards what's right for you.
So it's about paying attention to those subtle cues and trusting that our bodies already know.
Yeah, they know what's up.
Another practical tip that Karen suggests is creating a human design experiment for yourself.
I love that, like taking it for a test drive.
Exactly. See how it works in real life.
See what happens.
So maybe you experiment with your type strategy for a week. If you're a generator, maybe you only say yes to things that truly light you up. Or if you're a projector, maybe you see what happens when you stop putting yourself out there so much.
Yeah.
And instead, focus on mastering your craft, letting your work speak for itself.
I like it.
The key is to be curious.
Yeah. Be open, non-judgmental.
You discover.
So for all of you who love a good self-improvement challenge, this is it. Pick one aspect of your human design and, I don't know, try applying it consistently for a week, a month, whatever feels good.
Journal about your experience.
Notice what changes.
You might be surprised.
Now, I think it's important to address something that I'm sure some listeners are thinking.
Okay, what's that?
What if you get your human design chart and you're like, wait, this isn't me? I don't like this.
Yeah, what if it clashes with how you see yourself?
Like, what if it says you're a reflector, but you've always been a go-getter?
Or a projector who loves the spotlight.
Right. It's totally natural to have some resistance.
Especially if it challenges your beliefs about yourself. So what do we do with that resistance?
Approach it with curiosity and compassion.
Okay.
Instead of just rejecting it, ask yourself, why am I resisting this? What feels uncomfortable?
Yeah, like maybe there's a part of you that's afraid to let go of that old identity.
Even if it's not serving you.
And remember, human design is a tool.
It's not a weapon.
It's for self-discovery.
Not for beating yourself up.
And often when we understand the mechanics of our design, those parts of ourselves that we've been resisting, they start to make more sense.
It's like, oh, that's why I do that.
Exactly.
And then we can start working with our energy instead of against it.
You know, as we wrap up this deep dive into understanding human design, I gotta say, I'm feeling pretty inspired.
Me too. What's inspiring you?
Just the idea that we each have this unique blueprint and it can guide us to a more fulfilling life.
It's not just about individual fulfillment, though, right?
Yeah, it's bigger than that.
It's about how our unique gifts contribute to the world. Like, when we're living in alignment, we naturally become our best selves.
And that ripples out.
It affects everyone we interact with.
So to everyone listening, if you're feeling even a little bit intrigued,
Take the leap.
explore your own human design,
You never know. It might be the key to unlocking your full potential.
creating a life that feels truly aligned with who you are.
And remember, be patient with yourself.
Yeah.
Approach it with curiosity, playfulness, and most importantly, have fun.
This is just the beginning of your exploration.
There's a whole world out there waiting to be discovered.
Happy exploring, everyone!